Hello, Ben Bierce here with Brave Investigations. This video is on navigating time discrepancies in cell phone evidence, a crucial consideration in accident cases. Time deviation can become a pivotal concern when dealing with cell phone records, especially in motor vehicle accidents. The timestamps on the cell phone records may not align with the 911 center records. In this video, we'll delve into the following: an example scenario, determining the deviation, test calls, and a conclusion. To illustrate the complexities of time deviation in cell phone records, let's delve into a hypothetical scenario. Imagine a case involving a collision between a semi-truck and a car just outside a large metropolitan area. The official crash report states that the incident occurred at 3:58 p.m. on January 27, 2018. Upon obtaining and examining the phone records for the driver of the car, a puzzling timeline emerges. The records indicate that a call was started at 3:34 p.m. and 15 seconds, lasting 24 minutes and 40 seconds, and ending at 3:56 and 55 seconds. At first glance, it seems the crash took place just over a minute after the call, but we're about to uncover a deeper layer of intricacy. The timestamp on the crash report typically mirrors the initiation time of the computer-aided dispatch or CAD report. As someone who once patrolled the streets and completed crash reports, I recall setting the crash time to coincide with the CAD run's initiation time. That's the best time a police officer on the scene has for the time of the crash. In most jurisdictions, when a distress call reaches the 911 dispatcher, a series of steps take place. The dispatcher assesses the nature of the emergency and then initiates a CAD run. There's often a brief delay between the call's arrival and the initiation of the CAD run. The CAD run is human initiated. To obtain a more precise crash time, we'd ideally need access to the first 911 call audio file, complete with a date and timestamp. Audio recordings are system initiated rather than human initiated. For our hypothetical scenario, the timestamp on the initial 911 call reveals 3:57 p.m. and 33 seconds. Yet again, we find ourselves a little over 30 seconds away from the time of the crash. So it's clear that establishing the deviation is crucial. With our scenario in mind, we now embark on the task of deciphering the time deviation between the Sprint records and the 911 center logs. Are the clocks of Sprint and the 911 center perfectly synchronized? Probably not. The first step is identifying the carrier of the phone number that initiated the first 911 call. In our hypothetical scenario, if this first call came from the Sprint network, we'd scrutinize the Sprint records. If the end time of this call aligns with the start time of the first 911 call, we're on the right track. However, if the first 911 call originated from a different carrier, let's say Verizon, the puzzle grows more complex. Are Sprint and Verizon clocks perfectly aligned? Again, it's doubtful. Despite this, we can still utilize the 911 call to pinpoint the closest time of the crash on the 911 center's timeline. Upon examining the Sprint records for this 911 call, we note a time of 3:57 and 31 seconds. The deviation between the 911 center's time of 3:58 and 33 seconds and the Sprint's time of 3:57 and 31 seconds amounts to -1 minute and 2 seconds. By applying this deviation to the first 911 call's time, we arrive at a Sprint time of 3:56 and 31 seconds. The call in question started with a time of 3:34 and 15 seconds and an end time of 3:56 and 55 seconds. This started well before the first 911 call and ended after the first 911 call on the Sprint timeline. This analysis conclusively indicates that the person driving the car was engaged in a phone call at the time of the crash. In scenarios where we can't find a phone on the same network as the target phone, we resort to examining phones on the same network, making unrelated 911 calls. These times are set by the switch, not the cell site. Given that most calls in a region go through the same switch, Any calls made via a different cell site would bear timestamps set by the same switch. This ensures we're comparing apples to apples. Consider a case involving a late-night collision on a remote 2-lane road. Given the limited traffic, 911 calls might be scarce. If luck favors us, both drivers have phones on the same network. However, we can't always count on that. To secure necessary data, we might resort to making test calls to the 911 center. Although identifying the exact network used by the target phone can be a challenge, we can obtain prepaid phones for all the networks in the area and conduct test calls with each. Subsequently, we preserve records for our test phones until we establish the target phone's network. This information can then be subpoenaed. In the United States, there are 4 major carriers: AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and Verizon. Well, 3 because T-Mobile and Sprint have merged, but at this time, Sprint still seems to be operating its own network. Conducting test calls across these networks in an area close to the scene of the crash would provide comprehensive data. Executing test calls is a time-sensitive endeavor. The closer we conduct them to the incident, the more robust our argument about the consistency of the deviations. As time elapses, our argument weakens. Ideally, test calls should be made within 24 hours of the incident, with a 1-month limit being the upper threshold. In summary, the times recorded on crash reports and 911 center logs do not perfectly align with the times indicated in the cell phone records. While they may be close, they're not identical. However, with diligent effort, we can uncover the deviation between the 911 center's time and the phone record time. This process extends beyond call logs. It's equally applicable to text messages, internet activity, or application usage data retrieved from the device. The key is identifying a common event that links both timelines. In the present scenario, the deviation favored the party demonstrating that the other was on the phone at the time of the crash. Yet it's crucial to acknowledge that the deviation can sometimes swing the other way, indicating that a call that seemed to end post-crash actually terminated before the incident. When scrutinizing phone records for calls around the time of the crash, pay special attention to carriers like AT&T and T-Mobile, which employ Universal Time Coordinated, or UTC, which is the same as Greenwich Mean Time, or GMT. These time standards differ from Eastern Daylight Time and Eastern Standard Time. For Sprint and Verizon records, particularly close to time zone borders, timestamps can potentially straddle 2 different time zones. Consulting an expert for a thorough analysis is strongly recommended. Ultimately, definitively establishing whether a person was using their phone at the time of the crash might entail a bit of complexity. However, with meticulous investigation, this evidence can wield substantial influence over a case. If you have any questions regarding the time issue or any other questions related to cell phone evidence, please feel free to reach out to me by my website, braveinvestigations.com. Unraveling the intricacies of time deviation in cell phone evidence can be akin to solving a puzzle. In this journey, we've explored the crucial role that time plays in such investigations, particularly in the context of motor vehicle crashes. We delve into example scenarios, establish the concept of deviation, and even discuss the possibility of making test calls to solidify our findings. Remember, in a world of digital forensics, attention to detail and a methodical approach are your strongest allies. By following the breadcrumb trail of timestamps and meticulously cross-referencing different records, we can unlock vital insights that make or break our case. As we conclude this investigation into time deviation, always keep in mind that each case is unique and the intricacies may vary. But armed with solid understanding of the principles we've discussed, we'll be better equipped to navigate the complex terrain of cell phone evidence analysis. If you found this information valuable, consider subscribing to this channel for more in-depth insights into digital forensics and investigative techniques. As always, don't hesitate to leave your questions or comments below. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and keep seeking the truth.